So make sure you tell people that if they don't want their faces on Zoom, turn the video off.
Okay.
Okie dokie. I'm gonna let them in now. Here they come.
Hi, everybody. Hey, all right. Look at everybody coming in. Exciting. Natalia, thanks for coming in. Christine, Diane. Look at all these great people we have on today. Matthew, Nora. Hey, Nora. Hey, Laura. I'm just going to go through all the
The auras.
names, I think.
Ori, or we've got Ori that almost rhymes with
That's
Laura.
close. Well, Ori, yep. Or we can just go off the rails and do Becky. And Ori. Oh, I see Ori. Yep, there it is. We're getting there. Linda, thanks for joining us. Thanks everybody for joining us. Just as an FYI, we are live streaming on YouTube. If you don't want your amazing and beautiful face live streaming on YouTube, please turn off your video down at the bottom. Just click that video off and then you will not be seen by anybody. All right. Thank you all so much for joining. We got an exciting episode today. I don't know if we're supposed to call it episodes, but that's what it's getting from today.
Beth from Michigan calls them shows, so I think episode is appropriate.
Yeah, it's the podcaster in me. I can't help myself. Everybody's an episode. Yeah. No, now I'm making all the people an episode. Yep, I'm getting out of control. Somebody needs to cut me off.
So you guys may have noticed that we are down a Cecilia, but we're up a Sabrina. So we are we're getting through it. We're gonna do the work today.
Just a
Okay.
reminder for anybody who joined on, we are doing a live stream on YouTube. If you don't want to be seen, please turn your camera off. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Rebecca.
You're all good. So we're gonna go ahead and get started since it seems like the new folks coming in has tapered off. So this is our team. Like I mentioned, we are down to Cecilia today, but just imagine Sabrina's beautiful face right here, and she's our kind of our guest facilitator. Beth is in Florida, actually. I think that she and Sabrina were hanging out earlier today, so let's all be jealous that cool kids are hanging out without us. Um, we do have Dr. Melissa here today, so lucky us. And I think Dr. Chris will be joining us later. She had an appointment that was running a little late. So I'm Rebecca, y'all know me. So I'm the meanie that does the timekeeping and stuff like that. So if anybody is being a little too loquacious, a little too long-winded, that is my joy to get to move the conversation along. We have Laura here. She can assist in the chat. And I don't know if we have Boot Money or Merle, but we are a high quality crew, and I'm glad that everybody could be here today. So
Hey,
with
just so you
that,
know, Chris just got on.
great. So we've got almost a full team. Chris made it, yay! All right.
It's been a crazy day, but I'm home.
Awesome. We were just getting started. So just in case anybody here is new and is like, what did I sign up for? What did I get myself into? You are at the Sorting Soup Book Club, and we are a group space, and we are collective. We are reading as a group, and we're working on a couple of books, which we'll talk about in a second. And some of this stuff is pretty challenging emotionally. So we are here to support each other with that. And another goal with this space is to, by reading about this stuff and making ourselves more aware, we're able to, let's see. I'm going to mute people. Okay. We're able to deploy our knowledge in a powerful way. Knowledge is power. So we can turn that awareness into action plans, ways to help people through this. So we're able to respond with clarity instead of panicking. In terms of group norms, we will have a discussion period. And so in order to keep the discussion fairly organized or structured, we do ask people to raise their digital hand. So for anybody who's not familiar, in your Zoom menu, you will find a heart-shaped React button. You'll click that and then click raise hand. And that will get you in the line to participate. We ask that folks keep their comments civil and constructive. And if things get heavy, feel free to take a break, do some deep breathing, step away if you need to, and come back when you're ready. Our plan for the day is we are going to start our session with group reading, and we are working on Chapter 10 of Project 2025 Survival Guide. And if anybody doesn't have that book, don't worry, we will put the PDF of the chapter in the chat, and we will also be putting the text on the screen so that we can read aloud together. We'll read the chapter, and then we will have about 20 minutes-ish of discussion, and that's when we'll have folks raise their hands if they want to make comments or ask questions. We do ask folks to keep their comments to about 10 minutes per person, but you can come back and raise your hand again if you've got more to share. And then if there's time, we'll leave off with a chapter of lessons from cats for surviving fascism. Just as a heads up, we do have a hard stop today. We will be ending today at 5:45, come hell or high water. There is a 6 o'clock Zoom that will need time to set up. So we will be ending by 5:45 sharp. Dr. Melissa, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate because it was a little unclear. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to share, not 10 minutes, because that would be a long share.
Did I say 10?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Which would be great. I would love to hear from each person for 10 minutes, but that we would be running way into the movie then.
Yeah, we'll have to curtail that a little bit. Two minutes per person. Thank you, Melissa. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and yes, Gary, you're right. 10 minutes would have been not an effective use of time. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the PDF here in a moment. I know Cecilia normally guides us in a breathing exercise. I don't know if, okay, great. Sounds like Dr.
Okay.
Melissa is prepared to help us with that.
Okay, hopefully everyone can hear me. We'll take just a moment. We think about the bardo as that place in between what has been and what will be. And we are in that moment where we are creating and still in that moment of uncertainty, but looking forward. So we can just do a 4-4 out 8 breath. And you can picture anything you'd like to picture, something that's beautiful or peaceful. And you can close your eyes and breathe in through your nose to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And hold the breath. 2, 3, 4. And out. 2 through your mouth. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And breathing in, peace. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. And breathe out anything you need to relieve from yourself. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out through your mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then just notice the breath as it evens out, and just breathe naturally. And notice in the middle of your body, between your throat and above your navel, where you normally feel feelings, a felt sense of what is to be, what you want, what you need. And you can picture that will be coming to you as you need it. And any worries or concerns you can ask to sit aside while we focus on what we learned today and embrace our place in the bardo at this time. Thank you. Then you can wiggle your fingers and toes, blink your eyes, and come back in as we embrace this analysis. It's of Project 2025, and it helps us to learn what we are dealing with. And take it away, Rebecca.
Thank you, Melissa. So I'm going to share the PDF on the screen. I will also put it in the chat. And if anyone would like to volunteer to read some of it for us, we can take turns. Okay. Melissa, your hand is up. Would you like to read?
I actually can. I didn't mean to leave my hand up, but I can, and I will. Let's see. And I'll take my hand down too. It says Trickle Down 2.0. Same story, more damage. Every generation is sold an economic promise. It often arrives in the form of a theory dressed in a language of prosperity, efficiency, and personal freedom. In the case of Project 2025, this promise is a repackaged version of an old ideology that by reducing taxes on the wealthy, eliminating regulations on business, and withdrawing the state from economic intervention, the market will self-correct, grow organically, and ultimately deliver benefits to all. This is the logic of trickle-down economics, discredited by decades of empirical data, but revived in Project 2025 under the guise of renewal and reform. The core of this ideology has always been its simplicity. Let the rich accumulate more wealth, and they will invest in jobs. Let corporations operate without constraints, and they will expand innovation. Let the market determine value, and merit will rise naturally to the top. Project 2025 clings to these claims not because they are proven, but because they serve the interests of those who finance and shape its agenda. The economic model it promotes is not designed to uplift the majority. It is designed to concentrate gains while obscuring responsibility for the harms that follow. The policies proposed include a sweeping reduction in corporate taxes, the elimination of capital gains taxes for certain investment classes, and the dismantling of regulatory frameworks that ensure consumer protection, labor safety, and environmental sustainability. These are not marginal adjustments, they are structural shifts engineered to redirect public wealth upward. In the name of growth, Project 2025 enshrines a form of economic governance in which risk is socialized and reward is privatized. But history has already tested this model. The Reagan-era tax cuts, the Bush-era deregulation, the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, each iteration of trickle-down economics produced the same outcomes: ballooning deficits, rising inequality, underinvestment in infrastructure and social services, and a hollowing out of the middle class, and have to add working class. The gains went overwhelmingly to the top 10%, and within that, disproportionately to the top 1%. Meanwhile, wages stagnated, benefits eroded, and economic mobility declined. Project 2025 makes no effort to reverse this trajectory. Instead, it accelerates it, coupling economic deregulation with a systematic dismantling of the welfare state. The rationale offered is always the same, that reduced government spending will stimulate private initiative, that austerity, excuse me, I have to switch my computer a little bit, that austerity is a necessary precondition for growth, and that social programs disincentivize work. But in practice, what this produces is not discipline or opportunity, it is desperation. People are not lifted out of poverty by removing their access to food, housing, or healthcare. They are pushed deeper into it while wealth continues to accumulate in increasingly fewer hands. Even the promise of job creation fails to withstand scrutiny. Trickle-down economics assumes that the wealthy will invest their surplus in productive enterprise. But in an era of financialization, those surpluses are more likely to be funneled into speculative markets, offshore tax havens, share buybacks, and automated technologies that reduce labor costs rather than expand employment. See, does anyone else want to read, or should I? I'll just read that one line, the next two lines. The result is a paradox. Corporations grow richer, the stock market flourishes, but the actual economy, the lived economy of wages, rent, debt, and insecurity, become more fragile, not less.
Thanks, Melissa.
Yeah, thank you.
Christine, Chris, would you like to read?
Yes. For some reason, I like to read.
I love it.
This fragility is especially acute for communities already on the margins. Under Project 2025, the economic policies that favor deregulation and privatization are combined with cultural narratives that blame the poor for their condition. Structural inequality is reframed as individual failure. Economic insecurity is attributed to laziness, family breakdown, or moral weakness. This rhetoric is not just punitive, it is ideological cover for policies that entrench disadvantage. When people are told they deserve their suffering, the architects of that suffering are shielded from accountability. The project also disguises its economic goals in the language of patriotism. Deregulation is marketed as freeing American enterprise from bureaucratic tyranny. Tax cuts are framed as restoring power to families. Trade protections are presented as safeguards for national sovereignty, but behind this rhetoric is a different reality. Project 2025 does not empower small businesses. It privileges multinational corporations. It does not strengthen communities. It erodes the fiscal capacity of local governments. It does not democratize opportunity. It consolidates it within a narrow elite whose influence over policy grows as their financial leverage deepens. At the same time, the infrastructure of economic data is manipulated to serve the illusion of success. Project 2025 emphasizes GDP growth, stock market indices, and unemployment figures as markers of progress. But these metrics fail to capture inequality, precarity, and quality of life. A rising GDP says nothing about how gains are distributed. Low unemployment does not account for stagnant wages, part-time underemployment, or the erosion of collective bargaining. The illusion is maintained by focusing on averages when the story is in the extremes. Moreover, the project ignores the ecological and social costs of its economic model. By promoting unregulated growth and resource extraction, It sacrifices long-term sustainability for short-term profit. Environmental degradation is treated as an acceptable trade-off. The climate crisis is dismissed or denied. Infrastructure built under this regime, whether oil pipelines, surveillance systems, or debt-financed mega projects, is designed to serve capital, not communities. The economy is no longer a means to well-being. It becomes a battlefield where the powerful compete and the rest are collateral. I'm waiting for that. All right. What makes Project 2025's economic vision so dangerous is not simply its impact on wealth distribution. It is its moral framework, which treats inequality not as a problem, but as a natural outcome. The market becomes sacred, competition becomes destiny, and justice becomes irrelevant. Poverty is invisibilized. Worker exploitation is normalized. The very language of fairness is ridiculed as weakness or envy. In this worldview, government has no responsibility to level the playing field. It exists only to enforce contracts, protect property, and shield capital from risk. The social contract is rewritten. There are no mutual obligations, only market outcomes. Those who succeed deserve everything. Those who fail deserve nothing. And in the shadow of this ideology, democracy itself begins to wither. When economic power becomes political power, when campaign financing is dominated by billionaires, when labor unions are crushed, when public goods are privatized, the formal mechanisms of democracy remain, but the substance of democracy is lost. The title of this chapter, Trickle Down 2.0, is not metaphorical. It describes a process already in motion, now accelerated by Project 2025's framework. It is not just a set of tax cuts. It is a comprehensive strategy to reshape society around the interests of capital, to withdraw the state from public life when embedding it deeper into the service of private wealth. It is, in every sense, the economic illusion of freedom. Freedom for the few, insecurity for the many, and silence for those who question the arrangement. I will stop there. I'm ceding the reading.
Oh, great. Sorry, I was on mute. I was just talking.
Well,
Nobody
do you,
could
do
hear
you
me.
think, Rebecca, do you want to just read through, or do you want to see if anyone has a couple comments at this point, or what do people want to do?
I think we usually finish the chapter and then go to
Okay, yeah,
discussion.
right.
Marta, would you like to take over there?
Sure. Favoring elites and corporations. The rhetoric of Project 2025 is framed around the promise of restoring opportunity, freeing enterprise, and revitalizing the middle class. Yet beneath this populist surface lies a policy infrastructure meticulously designed to serve a narrow and powerful constituency, economic elites and corporate interests whose wealth and influence not only shape the project's ideological foundation, but also ensure its long-term political viability. The illusion of broad-based economic reform is shattered when one follows the benefits upstream. What emerges is not a system of shared prosperity, but a highly engineered mechanism of upward redistribution, one that privileges ownership over labor, capital over community, and private gain over public good. At the center of this system is a redefinition of what government exists to protect. Under Project 2025, the purpose of the state is not to mediate between competing interests, ensure fair competition, or address structural inequality. It is to clear the path for corporate expansion, even when that expansion produces measurable harm to workers, consumers, or the environment. Deregulation, tax restructuring, and fiscal austerity are presented as tools for national renewal. But in practice, they function as accelerants of corporate consolidation and elite dominance. The proposed tax reforms exemplify this dynamic. Project 2025 calls for a simplification of the tax code, the elimination of inheritance and capital gains taxes in key sectors, and a reduction in corporate tax rates, justified by the claim that such policies will unleash economic growth and job creation. But the data from past reforms, including the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, tells a different story. The overwhelming beneficiaries of these measures are the wealthiest households and largest firms, which use the windfall not to raise wages or expand production, but to repurchase shares, increase dividends, and shield assets. This is not a failure of trickle-down theory. It is its design. Beyond taxation, the regulatory rollback envisioned by Project 2025 creates an environment where accountability becomes optional for powerful actors. Financial firms face fewer oversight requirements even after the lessons of the 2008 crash. Labor laws are rewritten or under-enforced, allowing employers to suppress unionization, skirt workplace safety standards, and engage in wage theft with minimal consequence. Environmental protections are dismantled, enabling extraction and pollution in communities that lack the political capital to resist. Antitrust enforcement is weakened, facilitating the growth of monopolies and oligopolies in key sectors, from agribusinesses and energy to technology and telecommunications. The cumulative effect is a market that no longer rewards innovation, effort, or risk-taking, but instead concentrates power through size, proximity to government, and capacity to manipulate rules. Competitive dynamics are replaced with rent-seeking behavior, the extraction of wealth not through production, but through control over infrastructure, intellectual property, and supply chains. Public utilities are privatized. Public health data becomes proprietary. Patents on essential medicines are extended. The commons is not just enclosed, it is commodified. Should I keep going or?
If you want to do maybe two more
Sure, okay,
paragraphs.
sure. This system is further insulated by Project 2025's approach to campaign finance and political access. The project refuses to address the corrosive role of money in politics. Instead, it normalizes it. It treats corporate lobbying not as a threat to democracy, but as a natural extension of free speech. Super PACs and dark money networks are not only tolerated, they are integrated into the machinery of governance. Think tanks aligned with the project's goals receive generous funding to produce policy briefs that reinforce elite narratives, while dissenting voices in academia or civil society are defunded, discredited, or ignored. This consolidation is not just economic, it is cultural. Project 2025 frames elite privilege not as a distortion of the market, but as a vindication of it. Wealth is rebranded as virtue. Success is equated with moral superiority. The billionaire becomes a symbol not of inequality, but of national greatness. And any attempt to redistribute wealth, impose accountability, or question structural disparities is labeled as socialist, anti-American, or envious. In this framing, the elite are not merely tolerated, they are celebrated, protected, and emulated.
Thanks, Marta. Okay, Sabrina, will you take over?
Sure. The ideological project is reinforced by selective historical memory. Project 2025 rewrites the history of economic development as a story of unregulated markets triumphing over bureaucratic restraint. The New Deal is cast as a deviation. Labor rights are treated as overreach. Public investment is viewed with suspicion unless it flows through private intermediaries. Lost in this revisionism are the real foundations of American prosperity: collective bargaining, progressive taxation, anti-monopoly laws, infrastructure spending, and robust regulatory frameworks. What is offered in their place is mythology of rugged individualism backed by corporate subsidies. Perhaps most concerning is the erosion of the public sector itself, not just its capacity, but its legitimacy. Project 2025 promotes privatization as inherently more efficient, regardless of outcomes. Public schools are defunded in favor of voucher schemes that disproportionately benefit private and religious institutions. Public transit is neglected in favor of toll roads and public-private partnerships. Healthcare is fragmented into tiers of access and affordability, and as public services decline, their users, disproportionately low income, non-white, and politically marginalized, are blamed for the very failures imposed upon them. In this ecosystem, elites and corporations benefit twice. First, by capturing the economic returns of deregulation and privatization, and second, by avoiding responsibility for the systematic failures that follow. When housing becomes unaffordable, it is framed as a zoning problem. When health outcomes decline, it is blamed on personal behavior. When jobs disappear or become unstable, it is attributed to automation or global competition. Structural drivers are hidden, power is made invisible, and the solutions offered, more deregulation, more tax cuts, more market freedom, simply deepen the cycle. This is not the invisible hand of the market at work. It is a visible design crafted by and for those already at the top. The genius of Project 2025 is not in its novelty, but it is in its discipline. It offers no new economic vision, only a more aggressive version of an old one. What distinguishes it is its refusal to compromise. Its capacity to frame inequality as destiny, and its ability to enforce compliance through both law and culture. The implications are profound. When governance serves the interest of elites, democracy begins to fracture. Trust in institutions erode. Political polarization intensifies. Economic despair becomes fertile ground for authoritarian solutions. And the possibility of a fair, inclusive economy is replaced by a cynical realism in which most people no longer believe that the system can or should work for them. Favoring elites and corporations is not merely an economic choice, it is a political strategy. It is how inequality becomes institutionalized, how democracy is hollowed out from within, and how power perpetuates itself without visible corrosion. Project 2025 is not blind to its reality, it depends on it. The disappearance of the middle class. There was a time when the American middle class was not only a statistical category, but a cultural ideal, a promise that hard work, stability, and civic participation would be rewarded with security, dignity, and upward mobility. It was the middle class that defined the post-war consensus, powered consumer economies, and proved the social cohesion necessary for democratic governance. But the middle class, already weakened by decades of neoliberal policy, technological disruption, and globalization, now faces an existential threat under the economic framework promoted by Project 2025. What we are witnessing is not a passive erosion, but an active dismantling of the conditions that once made a broad middle class possible. Project 2025 does not simply ignore the middle class, it redefines it out of existence. In its language, there is little acknowledgement of wage stagnation, of rising debt, of the impossibility of home ownership for young generations. Instead, economic success is measured through abstract indicators: GDP growth, stock market performance, business confidence. These metrics obscure the lived realities of working populations increasingly squeezed between inflation, job precarity, housing scarcity, and the collapse of public services. The middle class is not thriving, it is shrinking, and for many, it has hardly become a memory. It has already become a memory, sorry. At the heart of this disappearance is a deliberate policy architecture that undermines every pillar on which the middle class was built. Stable, unionized employment has been replaced with gig work, temporary contracts, and underpaid service sector jobs. Affordable education is given way to student debt. Healthcare has become a luxury rather than a right. Housing is treated as a commodity, not a necessity. And public investment, once the engine of mobility and opportunity, has been systematically redirected toward private interest. Each of these shifts is presented as modernization, but their cumulative effect is a redistribution of risk from institutions to individuals, from capital to labor, from the top to the bottom. This transformation is not accidental. Project 2025's champions are champions an economy in which the role of the state is not to level the playing field, but to get it out of the way. This translates into a withdrawal of protections, a dismantling of safety nets, and a hostility towards collective bargaining. The promise is that a leaner government will allow markets to flourish, thereby lifting all boats. In reality, the boats have already been sorted: yachts for the few and life rafts, or nothing at all for the many. As protections are withdrawn, the middle class is left increasingly vulnerable to economic shocks. A medical emergency, a job loss, or rent increase can destabilize an entire household. What was once absorbed by public programs or employer benefits must now be shouldered by the individual. The myth of self-reliance is weaponized to justify this abandonment, and those who struggle are cast not as victims of structural inequality, but as examples of moral or personal failure. Project 2025 reinforces the dynamic through cultural messaging that romanticizes austerity, discipline, and sacrifice, so long as it is demanded from below. The middle class is told to tighten its belts, to compete harder, to adapt. Meanwhile, corporate tax rates are slashed, regulatory burdens are lifted, and subsidies flow freely to those already prospering. This is not creative destruction. It is systematic neglect, dressed in the language of efficiency and freedom. The result is a society in which the middle class is both overburdened and politically demobilized. Lacking time, resources, or institutional support, many are unable to participate meaningfully in the democratic life. Civic engagement becomes a luxury. Voting rates decline. Trust in institutions erodes. The dream of intergenerational mobility collapses into anxiety. Children are no longer expected to do better than their parents. They are expected just to survive. And in the climate of precarity, the appeal of authoritarian leadership grows stronger. People who feel abandoned by the system are more likely to support those who promise order, control, and the punishment of scapegoats. This is the social cost of economic inequality, a cost that is paid not only in dollars, but in democratic legitimacy. The middle class, once a buffer against polarization, now finds itself caught between the ultra-wealthy and the chronically excluded. Resentments grow, solidarity erodes, and politics becomes a battle of identities rather than interest. Project 2025 thrives in this environment. Its policies generate inequality, and then its cultural narrative diverts the blame. The loss of a middle class is not presented as a failure of governance, but as the inevitable result of progress, competition, and globalization. There is no alternative, only adaptation. What is missing from this narrative is any serious attempt to reconstruct the economic foundation of a healthy democracy. Project 2025 does not propose major investments in education, housing, or public infrastructure. It does not support living wages, debt relief, or affordable health care. Instead, it offers tax incentives, deregulated labor markets, and faith in private enterprise to deliver outcomes that decades of data show they will not. It is a politics of abandonment camouflaged as empowerment. The cultural impact of this shift cannot be overstated. The middle class was never just an income bracket. It was a narrative, a shared identity, a source of dignity. It allowed people to imagine their place in society as not fixed or marginal, but as central. It fostered the belief that effort and honesty were rewarded, the institutions could be trusted, that the future was something to look forward to. The disappearance of the middle class is also the disappearance of this belief. In its place, a new ethos emerges. Survive if you can, win if you must, but never expect fairness. This ethos is reinforced by economic geography. As rural areas and small towns lose industry, population, and investment, and as urban centers become unaffordable for most, the physical landscape of the country mirrors its economic stratification. Regions with shrinking tax bases and deteriorating infrastructure become politically alienated. Regions of concentrated wealth become culturally insular. Mobility between these spaces become more difficult, not just economically, but socially. The middle class once was a bridge between disparate communities, no longer has the material presence to perform that function. If left unaddressed, these trends threaten more than individual livelihoods. It threatens the entire democratic project. A society without a robust middle class is one where power consolidates, where polarization becomes entrenched, and where the bonds of civic trust fray beyond repair. Project 2025 offers no answers to this crisis because it is not designed to. Its goal is not to preserve the middle class, but to redefine society without it. In such a society, people are no longer citizens. They are consumers, clients, competitors, and data points. Their value is not measured by participation or contribution, but by productivity and compliance. Public life shrinks. Sorry. Oh, I thought you were talking to me. Public life shrinks, solidarity disappears, and the dream that once animated generations, that hard work, fairness, and democracy could build a stable life, is reduced to a ghost. The disappearance of the middle class is not a future threat. It is a present reality, one accelerated by the policies and priorities of Project 2025. What remains is the urgent question of whether that class and the democratic possibility is it once embodied can be rebuilt, or whether it will be remembered as a brief and unsustainable anomaly in an age of permanent inequality.
All right. Thanks, Sabrina. Thank you for rounding us out.
Yep.
So now we are in the discussion portion of the session. So we have about 10-15 minutes to discuss. So if anybody would like to share their thoughts, feel free to put your hand up. If you have any questions you'd like to pose to the group, go ahead and put your hand up. Again, the way that you do that is with the Heart React button in your Zoom menu. Click that Heart React button and then raise hand. So, Chris, yes, you've raised your hand.
All right, now I'm unmuted. I've been reading 1929 by, well, I guess it doesn't work, Andrew Ross Sorkin, and this all reminds me of all of that. It's a book regarding the year 1929 leading up to the big stock market crash. And this is exactly the attitude that the wealthy people had, the bankers. They sort of suckered in us little guys to buy these stocks. And in any event, I can see the things going that way now, the way we're treated. I shouldn't say we're treated, but the way the little guy is treated and all of the benefits that are going to our president's wealthy friends.
Absolutely.
But it's a good read.
It sounds depressing. Is it?
It's a good, well, I did like mortgage defense for homeowners. And for me, this like, oh, wow, that's why they did that. You know,
Okay.
that's how it got set up.
Yeah, that 1929 is on my to read list. So maybe it just went up a notch.
I
So,
waited months for it at the
thanks, Chris.
library. Yeah.
Melissa, you're up next.
Thank you. This is not my area of expertise as far as economics. So I wonder what people think about this. I was interested in the discussion of employment, unemployment, and whether that was, the idea that unemployment reduction or going down in unemployment, that it doesn't really mean that much because you have to look at the extremes and also the gig economy and all of that. Um, I know it went down during Biden and is going up again, but I'm curious because I also know that over time, that when people haven't been on the list for a period of a couple of years, I don't know how long, when the people haven't been employed for that long, they fall off that measure. So what's the best way to understand those data? That's my question for people who do know.
Yeah, I thought about, you know how there's that monthly economic meeting that has been going on for like 12 years. I thought about seeing if those guys could join us today, but didn't get around to it. It would be helpful to have them on because they are definitely the experts that we need to hear.
Maybe we can get someone on Sunday.
Ooh, yes. Let's make a note.
Thanks.
Thanks, Melissa. Nora, you're up next.
Yeah, it's funny. One thing that triggers me is when I hear trickle down economics, because the first time I saw Reagan, I got creeped out. It was like, I don't know, he was just so slimy to me. And that was when I first got involved in politics. I was working so many hours, I wasn't like a advocate out there on the streets, but I think I don't know, anybody that had any bit of intelligence understood that trickle down economics was a joke. It was a fake. It wasn't going to work. So we knew that. But along with Reagan was Rush Limbaugh, and he was enemy number one for me. So I wrote so many letters to the editor about Rush Limbaugh, and that was about the extent of my political advocacy, because I didn't fight real hard. I just thought he's going to go away. I'm going to pretend like he's not there. But, whenever I hear that word trickle down economics, I just get triggered so bad. I'm glad we don't hear it very much anymore. Everybody knows it didn't work, so they don't say it anymore. But yeah,
Uh, I
that's
feel like the new version of that is tariffs. It's like, oh, we took 20 years to figure out that trickle down economics doesn't work. Let's hope we learn the tariffs lesson a little faster than that.
I want to say something briefly on the tariffs. The Supreme Court probably won't decide on that until June because they always save the biggest cases until they can declare it right before they get out of town for break. And so I don't think we're going to hear anything on tariffs until June, but I'm probably the only person that hopes that the Supreme Court grants them as an acceptable thing that Trump can do and declares them not to be a tax. And here's the reason why. I want MAGA to suffer more. I want to get their votes. So I am willing to suffer right along with them as long as they will suffer too. And I know it sounds horrible, but I'm so adamant in saving our democracy. It's just like when we had the shutdown and I was on food stamps. I didn't care. I didn't want the government to shut down. I wanted us to stand and fight, and we caved. So I will suffer in the name of saving our democracy. But we'll see what happens. It'll be the end of June. People say, oh, it'll be any minute. And no, it won't. The Supreme Court's chicken.
Yeah, we need a new acronym. The Supreme Court always chickens out. SCACO or something.
Yeah,
Thanks.
they wait till the hard cases and then they announce it and run out of town.
Yeah.
No,
Thanks,
that's
Nora.
all. Okay.
Ori, you're up next.
2 minutes is going to be hard. when people were talking about the minimum employment and job employment, we need to understand that employment doesn't mean all the same things for other people. There are the gig jobs, as they're called, with no health benefits. You just hourly work in and work out, no vacation days, none of the things that many of us take for granted. Also, we need to understand that the minimum wage in this country is not one thing. The lowest minimum wage right now is in Georgia and Wyoming at $5.15 per hour. Illinois' minimum wage now is $15. The federal minimum wage is $7.25, which means it should be national, but it isn't because we are a republic and states get to decide. So when we're talking about employment, it's in employment, it doesn't mean one thing. And particularly since unions now that have struggled and fought historically for health benefits and all the things that come with a quality employment are now being penalized and jeopardized. So I just wanted to put that in mind when we talk about employment. It's not one thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Ori. You're right. It is hard to talk about some of these concepts when they are so variable from state to state. Joe, you're up next. Go ahead.
So Ori actually said some of the things that I wanted to say. I wanted to add one piece. Christine's question about why unemployment numbers vary so wildly is that the unemployment insurance numbers measure the people who are on benefits. Benefits expire after 26 weeks. So somebody could be unemployed for 50 weeks or 60 weeks or 70 weeks and not be counted anymore as an unemployed person. And I think Ori's point is so appropriate that being employed doesn't mean having a living wage. It just means you're not getting benefits from the government, and you still could be starving. So, and the last thing I'd like to say is that I posted in the chat something that I saw on Instagram, which is a comparison of Hitler's Germany to what's going on in America now, and I think it's worth a listen. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Ellen, you're up next. Can you come off mute?
Okay. Yes. Hi. Wow. The reading on this is so important. And, you know, I've said before, my stepfather was kind of with the Heritage Foundation and the Manhattan Institute and these policy places back in the 70s. And I think it's critical that we raise awareness and somehow open a hearing, in Congress on this, the way policies are determined by this this kind of fascist. This came from the fascist and the banking globalist top down. This is the truth of how neoconservatism operate. I don't know if anybody knows about. One of my theories is the states. She said, we're a republic, so these decisions are made at the state. I think that was put in, this idea of states' rights, sometime in the 70s. Be worth digging into that, pushing the way, like we're 50, competitive states where Texas does one thing and California does another, and there's this kind of opposition between the Democrats and the Republicans, and none of them are dealing with the real problem. Actually, as I'm running for Congress, I'm working with a guy now, and we're uncovering the connections between Epstein and Bannon and Barr, and going back to the 70s, orchestrating this. I think if we can get that, there's these new videos came out, him talking to Barack. I'm going to put you on the Palantir board. He had that kind of CEO power, and he used our technology, Promise software, that was working with the NSA, so many violations. That's what I'm trying to organize, that this investigate the deep state. It's the real rulers ruling us through these neocon policies designed for the rich richer and the poor to get poorer. So I love this book. So thank you.
Thanks, Ellen. Melissa, I think we will conclude the discussion portion with you, and then we will switch over to the Cats book.
Okay, thanks. I wanted to say, first of all, states' rights went back, I think, at least to the 50s and 60s and was a racist trope at that time. And it was used that I think there's some shifts now that we're hoping that states will protect us from the federal government. So there's some shift around that. I thought overall, some of the takeaways that I want just to summarize, I think, are about the shrinking of the middle class, and I would assume the working class along with that, and how that's driven people into division and against each other instead of having a shared economy that everyone participates in. And that the appeal then of a strong man to protect everyone from that. And this is what we see happening. Thanks.
Thanks, Melissa. Ori put in the chat, states' rights are the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, ratified in 1791. So sounds like they go back a little farther than the 70s. But I do think that there's that it does seem to be like I do seem to recall, like, since the 80s, the right has really leaned on that in a lot of ways in order to kind of get away with a lot of their shenanigans. So
Right.
so
It was
yeah,
used to defend segregation, basically.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it did go back. I mean, when the Constitution was ratified, I guess there were states and we were supposed to have independence to the states, but it was used by the Southern Democrats that way, and during the civil rights eras and so on.
Yeah, exactly. Ori, I see you're raising your hand. Come and clean up what I said.
No, what you said is not incorrect, but the Constitution says that if there is not a federal law, then the states' rights are what they are. And that's why SCOTUS, who are supposed to establish federal law that overtakes what states are doing. Example, the Voting Rights Act, the Federal Voting Rights Act mandated that states treat people, especially southern states, equally as with regards to voting and women's rights. So yes, the federal government has a mechanism constitutionally to establish national law. Unfortunately, we have a SCOTUS right now that could care less about the fairness of that. But in the Constitution, without a federal law, states have rights to impede their own laws. So I just went.
Thanks. That's a really interesting dynamic, I think, that we're seeing play out, like Melissa said. Sometimes that's for good and sometimes that's for bad right now. So I guess it's a mixed blessing, but all right. So it is 5:30. Unless anyone has any last thoughts, I will do a little bit of reading from Lessons from Cats. Okay. I believe this is actually the last chapter of Lessons from Cats. Oh no, there's one more. Okay. Remember, you're always the boss. That sounds very cat-like. Cats don't question the world. They know they're in charge. Whether they're strutting across your keyboard during a Zoom call or demanding dinner with an imperious meow, cats operate under the unshakable belief that they rule everything the light touches, and plenty of things it doesn't. This confidence doesn't waver no matter the circumstances, and that's a lesson we should all take to heart, especially when facing fascists. Fascists, despite their chest-thumping bravado, are deeply insecure. They project power because they know they don't truly have it, not when it matters anyway. They thrive on making you feel small, on convincing you that they're the boss and you're just a powerless bystander in their grand scheme. But here's the secret. They only win if you let them. Cats, of course, would never let them. Picture a fascist trying to exert control over a cat. You can't sit there, they'd bark, pointing to an off-limits chair. The cat, naturally, would hop onto the chair, stare at them for a moment, and then slowly begin licking its nether regions, radiating an air of, "Oh, I didn't hear you over the sound of me not caring. And by the way, have you seen my amazingly clean butt?" This isn't just defiance, it's dignity. Cats don't give up their autonomy for anyone, and neither should you. When the odds seem stacked against you, that's when channeling your inner cat becomes most important. Cats don't dwell on how outnumbered they might be or how big the dog chasing them looks. They carry themselves with unshakable confidence because they know their worth isn't dictated by external forces. A fascist may try to loom over you with their rules and regulations, but maintaining your dignity, walking tall, speaking clearly, and acting with purpose is the ultimate form of resistance. Fascists don't want you to have unbridled confidence. It makes them nervous, flustered, even a little sweaty. They'll try to undermine it with intimidation tactics, but much like a cat being shooed off a counter, you should respond by hopping back up with even more attitude. "Oh, this space? Yeah, I'm still here. Thanks for checking." The beauty of acting like the boss isn't about arrogance, it's about refusing to shrink yourself. Cats don't question their right to occupy space, and neither should you. Speak your mind, assert your presence, and carry yourself as though you own the room, even if it's filled with fascists who'd rather you didn't exist. Confidence isn't just a shield, it's a weapon. And if fascists try to knock you down, take another cue from cats. Land on your feet, shake it off, and continue ruling your world like nothing happened. They'll be too busy scratching their heads to figure out how you did it. So remember, you're always the boss. Not them, not their rules, not their systems of control. Walk through life with the swagger of a cat who knows the world is theirs to command. Let your dignity shine, your confidence radiate, and your belief in your own authority become the kind of quiet revolution that no fascist can ever extinguish. Because at the end of the day, the boss isn't the one who shouts the loudest. They're the one who knows deep down that they never stopped being in charge. So, that was a good chapter.
Yay. Nice reading, Rebecca.
Well, thank you.
I just have a
Okay.
question. Is that
Yes, ma'am.
cat book a series, and is there one on feminism and women about not taking any crap?
I feel like it should be. We
I
should
do
write a
too.
letter to this guy.
I know.
We should write the book.
Oh, even better. Yeah, we don't need a guy to write this book about feminism.
It'll be better if we do it.
That's right.
Hey,
Sorry,
hey,
Mary.
hey.
Nothing against our men. We just, if it's a
You
book
can
about
write it with
feminism.
us. I'm not against it. No, men are feminists too. We're going to include all the feminist men along with us because we need everybody. And also men have reason to be feminist because it's against men
Melissa,
as well as women. Yes.
Melissa, always the peacemaker. Look at her. Joe, we'll go at the behind the we'll go behind the building later. We'll work this out.
Oh,
Yes,
Carrie
Ken.
had a good suggestion in the chat. Book club can become book writing club. Ooh.
I love that. I love that. I love that.
Uh-oh,
Yes.
Constance hears that, and I don't even know.
Let her at it. Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts? We have just a few minutes left.
I have one. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So it's just very light. But when you were talking about SCOTUS chickening out, I was picturing Bill's enormous chicken. And I was thinking, oh, wouldn't it be so fun at the, in March to have like smaller chicks with the Supreme Court robes, or do something with like the chicken lays bad eggs, like have eggs with all the problems that this chicken has laid. Just a thought. But last week we were saying we're not going to let creativity die. It's just maybe somebody else could take the idea and run with it.
I hear
Those
an
are so brilliant.
Art show. I hear art show coming along.
Maybe.
Creativity. Writing
All
group,
right.
art show.
Let me write it down. I see Bill is on. I don't know if he's listening, but we got to get that feedback back to him.
Rebecca, this is Merritt. Is the movie tonight is on our connection?
Yes, this
link?
same Zoom link. Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
we're gonna like kick everybody off here in a little bit, just so that
Thank you.
we're not like trying to overlap. Okay,
You got to
chicks
get off and get
eggs.
back on.
And I
Chicks
like that
eggs.
chapter of cats.
Did you
Oh,
like
good.
that imagery
Thanks,
with
Merritt.
the butt, the leg in the air
Yes.
thing? Funny.
So,
Oh, sorry.
so Marta, send a little sketches of your concept of the chicken with the eggs or the little
Oh.
Supreme Court chickens.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I will.
Oh, God help me. This
That is so funny. Okay, my alarm just went off, so that means it's time.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Goodbye,
All right.
everybody.
Oh.
We've got two people with
hand.
their hands up.
Oh,
We'll do
Finley.
Linda and Nicole, and then we'll close out real quick.
No, this is Linda. I just wanted to say quickly about Bannon and Trump both trying to appeal to their group about them going to jail if our prison post this election
Never.
in 2026. That has been what they've been taunting to them. So I just wanted to say that to the group.
Thank you, Linda.
That's their concern, and they're saying it out loud.
Thanks, Linda. Nicole, we will end with you.
Yes, thank you. This coming week is going to be very crucial for us to start to call the senator about the funding bill. I don't hear many people mentioning this, but the House voted when the House voted, back in a few weeks before, they Congresswoman Veronica Escobar from Democrat from Texas had introduced an amendment that would prevent ICE from arresting and deporting U.S. citizens. And at the instance of the White House and Stephen Miller, they removed that amendment. So whenever anybody is calling the senators this week, please mention that we want them to reintroduce the amendment, the Escobar amendment, that prevents ICE from arresting and deporting U.S. citizens. And this and among the other two things, the repealing the Lincoln-Riley Act, and also making illegal the Kavanaugh stops. Those are the two laws that already passed, that are not law passed, but the two. One is an interpretation of the law by Justice Kavanaugh, and the other one was a law that passed that made all this violence, those arrests, without due process possible.
If there's time, you could put it in the chat, but that's very important. Wow, I didn't know about the Escobar, and of course, how dark, how evil.
I'll put that in the chat right away. Hold on.
Thank you. Yes, it feels a little like we shouldn't need that amendment. We shouldn't need a law saying that U.S. citizens can't be deported. Like, no, duh. But yeah, let's cover our butts with legislation.
And look at who got rid of it. Look at who. That was their idea all along.
Couldn't they just say, sure, of course we wouldn't do that. It's not gonna make a difference to us anyway. But yeah, it says that they're up to something.
you.
So thanks, Nicole. All right, and with that, we're gonna wrap up.
Thanks, Rebecca.
And thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Come back on in 19 minutes, and we'll see you then.
Okay,
Thank you.
You.
Bye, y'all. Okay, Bill, I'm gonna